are listening to KPCA LP, Petaluma, California, at 103.3 FM and worldwide at www.kpca.fm. And this is the Midnight Skeptic. The views of the Midnight Skeptic are not, repeat, not necessarily the views of KPCA or any of its affiliates. Okay, this is the Midnight Skeptic, and this is show number 29, and it's going to be broadcast on this coming Sunday, July 29th at the usual time, 9 p.m. on KPCA LP 103.3 FM. The Midnight Skeptic is now returning to my normal schedule every other Sunday. So the next one that I'm going to record is going to be 2 weeks from now. It will be broadcast 2 Sundays from now, the next one. Okay. Last Sunday's show was kind of a supplement. So this is actually 3 shows in a row. Last Sunday's show was a supplement, kind of in between the 2 regular shows, to further elucidate some horrible wrongs that I just couldn't fit into show number 27, which was broadcast on the 11th. I'm going to get off this topic after this show. It seems like I've been just bashing religions right and left, mostly the Catholic Church, but I did a show on my opinion that all religions are misogynistic and anti-women, and then I went into examples of it, and then the more I went into the topic of religion, I kept running across these things, and I knew a little bit about them, but I hadn't seen any YouTubes or really researched it extensively. But so anyway, here we go, and I guarantee that there's going to be some good news on this show. The shout-outs, Stan Gustafson, who likes my good news segments, and there will be more on this show. And Rich and Kathy Berger in Sebastopol. Last shout-out on the last show, I had another damn brain freeze, and I couldn't remember the name of their town, which is Sebastopol. So I said rural Sonoma. Well, Sebastopol is rural Sonoma. Okay. The East Coast group, Geraldine Goldfinger out on Long Island, Dr. David Rubin down in the Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina area, Nelson and Alice Lydell in Sarasota, Florida, and new to Florida, Amelia Beamer. She's over near the St. Augustine area. I don't think she listens into this show, but she just moved there and from Petaluma, and I hope she doesn't regret the move, but I'm sure she misses Petaluma a lot. And she is more left-wing than I am, and I'm pretty lefty, so, I'd like to see you again, Amelia, if you're of a mind to. My brother in Santan Valley and his wife, Mina, and their daughter, Andrea, which she's my niece, and her hubby Tim, retired Marine Corps, and they're 3 little terrorist guys. Andrea is a nurse down in the Santan Valley area. I'm not sure which hospital, but oh man, COVID-19 is coming on strong again. So Andrea, if you're listening, take care of yourself, mask up, and put your PPEs on. Okay, the Sonora crowd, Bob and Sandy, Brad and Martha. Martha, who is also a nurse up in the Sonora area. And take care of yourself, mask up, etc., etc., etc. Nag, nag, nag. Darrell, Judy, Leonidas, and Rosie Negrete Lopez down in Mexico City. I hope the COVID isn't breaking out too badly in the Mexico City area. And then Tim Conrad, ex-Sonora, now living down here in Petaluma. And he's a wonderful photographer. You can see a lot of his photographs on Facebook. The Sacramento Gang, Dave and Rosie Takach, a Hungarian name. And Mickey Huff, the godfather of Project Censored, who can be heard right here on KPCA-LP on Wednesdays at 3 p.m. and on KPFA 94.1 in Berkeley, over in the lefty paradise, on Fridays at 1 p.m. And then my very, very favorite herpetologist, Karina Hilliard, down in Patagonia, Arizona. Animal control officer, studying herpetology, et cetera, at Arizona State, I believe she's going to. Okay. I promised all of my thousands and thousands of listeners and Stan some good news. Well, here it is. Okay. The left-leaning government of Greenland. How many of you out there knew Greenland had its own separate government? Well, they do. And has decided to suspend all exploration off its coast. The government is now led by the Inuit. Okay, I'm going to have to read this again to pronounce it. This is a political party, the Inuit Ataqatigiit. Since April's election, they got into power. And they also stopped plans for uranium mining down in the southern Greenland area. Greenpeace, the Earth-friendly organization, called the decision fantastic. Denmark supports Greenland by an annual $540 million subsidy. And it's not a colony of Greenland. It's an association of some sort. I'm not sure what they call it, but Greenland and Denmark are kind of close. And I don't know the history of Greenland and how Denmark came to have such an influence on it rather than any other Nordic country, Iceland or Norway or Sweden or any of those. Okay. Enough of Greenland. MGN segment. Okay, MGN stands for More Good News. All right. I think I'll do this segment regularly because I get tired of being angry all the time, and angry at Republicans, angry at religious people, angry at stupid jerks, and sometimes the Venn diagrams of Republicans and religious people and stupid people, it just kind of converge, and then that center part is the Republican Party nowadays. Okay. In Canada, okay, now this is good news. Okay, in Canada, more than 80% of eligible Canadians have received their first dose of a COVID-19 vaccine, and more than 50% have gotten their second dose. So they're moving right along there up in Canada. Premier Justin Trudeau and the Midnight Skeptic wish to thank all Canadians. You should be a good example for all of us down here south of the border. Okay. Last weekend, and I'm talking about July 10th and 11th, ground was broken on the first ever Armenian American Museum down in Glendale, California. I'm not sure exactly where it is, but it's one of those cities down in the LA megaplex. And on December 12th, 2019, the United States Senate unanimously, whoopee, passed a resolution recognizing the Armenian genocide as perpetrated by what at that time was the Ottoman Empire. Now it's the remnants of the Ottoman Empire is the country of Turkey. And Erdogan, the current leader of Turkey, is very PO'd at our country for doing that. They're mad at anybody who recognizes the Armenian situation as a genocide. Well, it was. Okay. Let's see. Where am I? On April 16th of 2021, whoa, that's a couple of months ago, the Legislative Assembly of Alberta, Canada, followed suit, and the Canadian government declared the month of April as Genocide Remembrance, Condemnation, and Prevention Month. Well, they didn't specifically say the Armenian genocide, but just all genocides. Okay. The Pope, Frankie boy, in 2015 said that the Armenian genocide was, quote, this is a quote from him, considered the first genocide of the 20th century. It occurred from 1915 to 1923. And in 1923, the official borders of the current country of Turkey were delineated after all of the victorious nations, the Allies in World War I, got together and finally agreed on what was Turkey, what was not Turkey. The country of Greece invaded Turkey. I think it was 1920 or 21. Anyway, the Turkish, what remained of the Turkish army, or what remained of the Ottoman Empire's army, led by Kemal Ataturk, who's considered the father of modern Turkey, beat back the Greeks, and then the Allies, the victorious Allies, England and Italy and France and us to a certain extent, agreed that this is what Turkey should be. It shouldn't be carved up, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so 1915 and 1923. But wait, there's more. Okay. Speaking of genocide, Germany has apologized for its genocide of the Herero and Nama peoples. Okay, where are they? Okay, they live, and there's remnants of them living down there today. It's what it was called German Southwest Africa, and they have since morphed into the country of Namibia, which is quite a bit of it is just desert, except for the coastal areas, and it was controlled by, well, it was called just Southwest Africa after a while. The League of Nations, which was a failed international organization, awarded a, I forget what they called them now. They were not a colony of South Africa. But anyway, South Africa was awarded German Southwest Africa after, Germany was defeated in World War I. And the people down in what is now Namibia agitated for their independence from South Africa. So, but anyway, the two main tribes there were the Nama And the Herero, well, let's see, I lost my train of thought on my notes here. German Southwest Africa, now the country of Namibia. Okay, more than 80,000 people were killed and by the German army and their local recruits. And okay, so Germany apologized for that. And that occurred in, let's see, did I even write the year down? Anyway, it was about 1904, 1905, 1906 that the German army versus the tribal warriors of the Nama and the Herero. I think the name of the country today, Namibia, comes from the Nama people. Well, anyway, the German army had machine guns, cannons. They may have even had early planes that did scouting for them, but versus the tribal members that essentially had shields and spears and a few captured rifles. But anyway, it was no contest. Okay. The German government, along with the apology, gave Namibia $1.35 billion for reconstruction and development projects. Well, in today's dollars, that's kind of a drop in the bucket. Nama and Herero tribal leaders declared the amount, quote, an insult, unquote. Certainly, more does need to be done. I think South Africa should be on the hook for a little bit of reparations and development monies. I'm waiting with bated breath for Pope Francis to revise his genocide pronouncement of 2015. And I'm also waiting with bated breath for the papal apology for the Canadian and American Indian residential schools' treatment of First Nations children. I went into this on the last show and the show before that. Okay. MGM, more good news. Coca-Cola is being sued over greenwashing, and they're not unique to this. There's a lot of companies that are trying to convince their customers that they're the good guys and they're so environmentally conscious and blah, 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 blah. The Earth Island Institute, and they're headquartered over there in Berkeley, is suing for, quote, false advertising. In the District of Columbia Superior Court, the D.C. Superior Court, it's estimated that Coca-Cola, it's claimed that Coca-Cola cannot claim lawfully that it is a sustainable or environmentally friendly company, despite, and this is factual information right here, they generate more plastic pollution than any other company in the world. For the YouTube people, that again was Nick going upstairs to his room. He's my renter in the house here. Okay, the company has not lived up to its past recycling commitments and shows no sign of doing so in the near future, said Sumona Majumdar, General Counsel for the Earth Island Institute. All right. Okay. You all have had enough good news for one session. It's time to get into some rather rasty stuff. And let's see. Okay, I've been at this good news stuff for about 20 minutes now. And I've had a few complaints. that I was just cherry picking. And when I'm talking about religion and I'm bashing the Catholics too much, and I guess they do some good. A lot of the orders of nuns are out there trying to comfort people, especially in this COVID-19 era. But, well, anyway, let me get on with this. I'd like to talk about the Magdalene laundries. Okay, well, where are the Magdalene laundries, and what is it that they wash? They're also known as Magdalene asylums, and they were run by the Catholic Church via their orders, the Sisters of Mercy, the Sisters of Our Lady of Charity, of the Good Shepherd, and just plain old Sisters of Charity. And there's a number of orders of nuns that run these Magdalene asylums or Magdalene laundries. Okay, I still haven't explained what they were. In Catholic Ireland, fallen women were sent to the Magdalene asylums, the fallen women who got pregnant, and not just the ones who got pregnant, but fallen women who were just in the sex trade. And when did this take place? All the way up until the early 1970s, and it began in the 1890s. Okay, where was I in my notes? In Catholic Ireland, fallen women, as they were called, or girls who had sex or were raped and got pregnant, were sent to these asylums to work and have their babies. The asylums, or laundries, made money by providing laundry services to the local people in the towns that they were located in. On 19 February 2013, the head of the Irish government, who at that time was Enda Kenny, issued a formal apology to, quote, all those women for the hurt that was done to them and for any stigma they suffered as a result of the time they spent in a Magdalene laundry. A compensation commission was formed to help figure out, how can these women be compensated? There's a lot of them that are alive today. They're in their 60s, 70s, 80s, maybe even some in their 50s, since the Magdalene laundries kind of shut down in the early 1970s, early 80s, early 90s, or 2000s, 2000. Well, okay. If they went to them at, let's just say, the age of 20, okay, they'd be in their 70s now. That's the youngest of them. So, okay, the survivors, let's say in their 70s and 80s, some maybe even in their 90s. Okay, the Compensation Commission, blah, 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 was formed to help out the Magdalene women who still were alive. They are beginning to die off now. They were essentially slave labor and horribly abused. Slave labor working in the laundries. In the 1950s, the Magdalene laundries began closing down. And why is that? Was it a conscience outbreak in the orders of nuns that ran these Magdalene laundries? No. An invention that finally got to be affordable for the average household owner. The washing machine. Okay, and if household or householders, Irish families of the, I guess, middle class and upwards could afford to buy washing machines. Well, they no longer needed to outsource their laundry. So, well, there goes the Magdalene laundries. There goes their profits. Okay, washing machines due to homeowners. In 1993, in Dublin, a mass grave at a Sisters of Our Lady of Charity was found. Okay. 133 young corpses. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And the corpses, okay, this Magdalene laundry, the building, was just knocked down and used for a park and some other houses. And this is in Dublin. And it was called this district of Dublin, or a suburb of Dublin, Tuam, Tuam. And in 1993, this developer was getting ready to build apartment buildings or housing in Dublin, and ran across this old site of the Magdalene laundry. And in the septic tank of the convent, asylum, whatever you want to call it, where the sisters and the women lived, they found this 133 infant corpses in and this raised quite a furor amongst the Irish in Dublin. And well, it kind of blew the whistle on it. And there was a, let's see. Again, I've got to organize my notes a little better than they are. Okay, there's a YouTube, it's a documentary. If you go on YouTube, Google The Forgotten Angels of Tuam, or another YouTube thing, quote, Mother and Baby Homes Final Report. That's what they euphemistically called these Magdalene laundries, mothers and babies. Well, the nuns themselves were a rather cruel lot back in those days, not to mention the priest who was overseeing it and sexually abused some of the fallen girls that were sent there. Okay. So, let's see. Okay, here's a documentary that you can look up on YouTube called The Magdalene Sisters, and it's a 2002 film by Peter Mullan, Mullan. It's based on a 1998 documentary called Sex in a Cold Climate, and that was made by Steve Humphries. Okay, and this documentary was made after this 1993 discovery of all of these little kids' corpses in the having a brain freeze on the word, where the sewage pipes from the buildings empty into I think I already said it once, but then it slipped out of my mind again. Okay. All right. Be that as it may, on January. Okay, wait a minute. Then there's the Bon Secours sisters. Today in Maryland, they're there now. They work very closely as healthcare providers. I guess they are trained nurses of RNs and LVNs and certified nursing assistants and all of that. And they do good work in the state of Maryland and a number of locations over in the eastern part of the United States. They were the first order of nuns to provide home health care. Now, this was back in 1902, 1903, 1904. That's when they started that. And they were also the first to offer daycare facilities in Baltimore, the city of Baltimore. They also provide health care in rural areas of Peru. I mean, these guys do good work. They run 19 acute care hospitals and a psychiatric hospital in the eastern part of the United States, and 4 assisted living facilities. Okay, but on January 13th, 2021, the Bon Secours order issued an apology for not, quote unquote, living up to its Christian duty when running the County Galway at Tuam facility for mothers and babies. Okay. Altogether, 2,219 women and 3,251 children had been at one time or another in the Tuam facility. The facility also accommodated wait a second. Oh. Notes. One of these days I will organize them a little better. Okay, the facility in Tuam I'm talking about now also accommodated children of destitute and homeless women. Until relatively recently, Ireland was a very poverty-stricken country, I mean, kind of like a third world country. And there were a lot of destitute and homeless women. A total of 978 died at the home. 80%, and this is a horrible statistic, 80% were aged under a year old. And the Tuam facility ran from 1925 to 1961. And the building just sat there for a long time. And then finally the building was torn down, and this developer carted away the remnants of the asylum / convent. And that was when, this burial pit where these children's remains were found. Septic tank, gosh, that's the word that I'm looking for. This is where those 133 bodies were found. A tomb of 796 infants and children. Skeletons were discovered in a septic tank underneath where the home once stood. And, watch if you care to, The Forgotten Angels of Tuam, or Mothers and Baby Homes Final Report. And this is, the final report is being done by the Irish government. Okay, or, okay, you can watch this. The Magdalene Sisters, 2002 film by Peter Mullan, based on a 1998 documentary, Sex in a Cold Climate, by Steve Humphries. Okay, there's another documentary. It came out on January 8th of 2019. It's called Native American Boarding Schools. It's kind of a rough one to watch. I think it was PBS that did it, and it's narrated by Peter Coyote. He is a narrator nonpareil of all sorts of documentaries. Okay, at this point, I want to urge all of my thousands and thousands of listeners out there to send your comments and hate mail to the Midnight Skeptic at gmail.com. I will get it. Okay. Now, I talked a little bit about on the last show, and I was kind of riffing at this point, where I was talking about the current Republican Party fright is critical race theory, or CRT. And there aren't any Republicans that know what the hell this is. And I want to perform a thought experiment. Okay. And this is a fictionalized supposition here. Okay, I got to put on my glasses for this. Excuse me. What if the GOP, the Republicans, pushed school bans on planes instead of critical race theory? What if people, Republicans, were afraid of flying, and the term aeronautical engineering is a very advanced educational subject that not many people, except people who have studied aeronautical engineering, really understand. And what if parents, in their ignorance, were afraid of flying, and they decided to ban the teaching or the very mention of anything associated with flying, like flight path, planes, aircraft, pilot, airport, baggage handler, flight attendant, friendly skies, Delta, Southwest, United American, boarding pass, luggage, TSA, clouds, landing, deplaning, taxiing, and gate. This hypothetical GOP Karens, they eat it up. Okay, they believe every word the GOP says about this, and angrily demand aeronautical engineering be banned in schools. They write broad laws, and school boards pass emergency orders. There's a bad printing here. The Karen's usual tricks, the people know not to believe her. They practically beg people to research engineering themselves before blindly accepting her idea as fact. They write articles, post videos, send countless social media posts, all reporting the actual definition of aeronautical engineering. and revealing this GOP Karen as someone who has misconstrued the definition to serve her own agenda. But then something unexpected happens. The GOP Karen's critics realize not everyone following her is ignorant or lazy. Many have secretly despised flying for years. They latch on to GOP Karen's plan to closely regulate and ban the subjects of aeronautical engineering that nobody really understands in her crowd. It's a better strategy of asserting flying is harmful than really learning about it. Flying was never really thoroughly taught in schools anyway, and we're talking high schools and grammar schools. But GOP Karen and her supporters want it removed completely. What's worse is that in some areas of the country, they may get their wish. Now, GOP Karen and her plans are not real. This is a complete fiction, but the problem that I'm having fun with, a thought problem, is that when one step back and take a look at the conversations, okay. Look, I'm going to show you this. My printer malfunctioned, and there's a few lines that are printed over another line, so I'm having to kind of do this, which is things that I should have done before I even started this, but moving along. Take a look at the conversations happening about critical race theory and black history. The aeronautical engineering and flying in this story, Karen's plan feels comfortably in the realm of possibilities. Okay. Texas, the state of Texas, the fount of ignorance, I guess, in their politicians, their Republican politicians. Texas Foundation makes its ignorance on critical race theory impossible to miss. Okay, there's a whole website to go to. Okay, and a related topic. Fearmongers are driving quality educators away to advocate for lies about critical race theory. This is another website. Related, Tennessee Republicans deem Ruby Bridges' story, they're calling it critical race theory in an effort to ban it in schools. There's a book written about Ruby Bridges. She's a little girl that integrated, I'm not sure of the school that she integrated, but there was a children's book made about it, and Tennessee is considering banning it. Remember the Space Force commander that Trump, or the previous guy, thanked? He's been fired for deeming diversity efforts Marxist. And Marxism is another thing that Republicans just don't understand what it really is. Republicans in 3 states are trying to ban the 1619 Project from schools. Okay. This effort of mine didn't come off like I had hoped it would. If I would have had more preparation, There's a couple of letters or emails to this thread. Why, I ask as an educator and a father, are parents allowed to say what their children should learn? Now, we're talking about factual, historical matters here. The EDU system in this country is already so badly broken and laughable, it's an international embarrassment. And we want plumbers and carpenters telling us what we should teach their kids? I don't think so. Mom and Dad, you need to go home, crack your 15th beer of the day, and sit down and shut up. Okay, boy, that's kind of harsh. Uh, mm. Okay. Uh, I'm not going to read any more letters that were in response to this thought project, but here's one more. One thing that might be going on is that it's possible the South's, particularly Texas, stranglehold on textbook content is weakening with the rise of the internet. Well, that's a good thing. It sort of is. Every 2 or 3 years, my whole life, I've read about how the Texas School Board Committee censored or watered down this or that controversial passage in some school books. And then, because Texas is such a big place and buys a lot of textbooks, the publishers were obligated to edit that content out of textbooks nationwide. This gave reactionaries a lot of power to perpetuate comfortable fables about American history and civics. Okay, riff time. Okay, I've got a little bit of time left on this show. The next one will be more well organized, but then maybe I say that every time. There's a little bit of good news that I thought that I might not have enough time to include, but I will include it now as good news. Juul is to pay North Carolina $40 million, settling the first in a spate of vaping suits. I've not recently, but I talked, like about 15 shows ago about the Juul company, and they're headquartered here in San Francisco. They are the epitome of evil in my mind, along with the tobacco companies. I am a non-smoker. I have never smoked, and their business plan is to hook younger people and hook them on nicotine, and that is the drug that is very, I think, is the most addictive of all of the drugs. Beyond the litigation, a group of 39 attorneys general from both Republican and Democratic-led states, led by Ken Paxton. He's the AG of Texas, and he's doing something good here. Well, okay, credit where credit is due. Good job, Ken. Have been investigating Juul's marketing and sales practices for over a year. This is a quote. For years, Juul, Juul, that's the main maker of these vaping products. Okay. For years, Juul targeted young people, including teens, with highly addictive e-cigarettes. Josh Stein, the North Carolina Attorney General, who sued the company in May of 2019, said in a statement announcing the settlement, quote, "It lit the spark and fanned the flames of a vaping epidemic among our children, one that you can see in any high school in North Carolina." But the company was able to reach the settlement deal without admitting to the allegations, one of its chief goals, in the face of the other lawsuits and the FDA review. In Juul's statement, Joshua Raphael, A company spokesman said, quote, "This settlement is consistent with our ongoing effort to reset our company and its relationship with our stakeholders as we continue to combat underage usage." BS. They are not combating underage usage. "And advance the opportunity for harm reduction for adult smokers." Okay, enough of that. They claim that vaping Juul products is a step toward quitting smoking regular cigarettes. Well, maybe in a few percentage points of smokers that might be true, but it's at the expense of a bursting forward of teenage vaping, and which is a horrible assault on our young people's lungs. Okay. The notes about the Tuam mothers and children's homes and the Magdalene laundries, I thought was going to take a lot longer to get through than it ended up doing. Hence my riffing. Hold on a minute. Okay. Anti-vaxxers. This is a article from the New York Times, and it's entitled "Anti-Vaccination from Fringe to Fox." Well, who's Fox? Well, that's the Tucker Carlson network, that creep. Okay. When the Trump administration was in power, they were touting their efforts to develop with warp speed a vaccine that would nip this COVID-19 epidemic in the bud. Well, now that he lost the election and a new administration is in there, thank God for Joe Biden. Well, what does Fox say? Well, now they're complaining about the government encouraging people and to take the vaccinations. And the government is not forcing anybody to do it. But to listen to Fox News, you would think that we were living under a dictatorship of health fanatics. Well, okay. This is Britt Hume. He pushed back slightly against these claims from the other Fox hosts. Quote, "What they're trying to do is make it as easy as possible for people to get the vaccine and for people who are hesitant to perhaps encourage them, that they have nothing to fear." This was when it was announced that the Biden administration was going to send out teams of people to knock on doors. And, of course, that freaked out the right-wing Republicans. These, they call them brown shirts and jack-booted representatives of the Biden dictatorship and crap like that. They're claiming that they're going to come knock on your door and take away your guns and take away your Bibles. Well, if all you listen to is Fox News, well, first of all, you're pretty dumb for doing that anyway. But if you only listen to them, you might be afraid that that's what's going to happen. Okay. Anyway, Brett Hume was quick to add that vaccinations do have side effects and said those who are hesitant should be respected. Okay, nothing wrong with that statement. And there are, in some minor cases, some minor side effects. Okay. Opposition to vaccines was once relegated to the fringes of American politics, and the rhetoric on Fox News has coincided with efforts by right wing extremists to bash vaccination efforts. Served up to an audience that is more likely than general population to be wary of COVID vaccines. The remarks by Tucker Carlson and Laura Ingraham echoed a now common conservative talking point that the government-led effort to raise vaccination rates amounts to a violation of civil liberties and a waste of taxpayer dollars. Well, let me reiterate again. The people that listen to me blather on do not think that way. I doubt if anybody who listens to this show listens to Fox News other than by accident. The comments by the Fox News hosts and their guests may have also helped cement vaccine skepticism in the conservative mainstream, even as the Biden administration's campaign to inoculate the public is running into resistance in many parts of the country. Okay, it's time for my play out music. You have been listening to The Midnight Skeptic on KPCA LP, Petaluma, California. And we're at 103.3 on the FM dial and worldwide at www.kpca.fm. Support community radio at patreon.com/Petaluma Community Access. And remember, think critically, think logically, but live joyously, and most importantly, pet your cats. Okay, that about does it for another Midnight Skeptic show. Please do send your comments, criticisms, and hate mail to The Midnight Skeptic, all one word, lowercase, at gmail.com. And again, I want to say that I'll be back with you in 2 weeks. This show, such as it was, is going to be broadcast on the 25th, 2 Sundays from now. And this show will be broadcast on the 18th. Oh God, I'm screwing up here. Okay, this show that I'm recording right here and now is going to be broadcast on the 25th. Oh man, have you all seen anybody that's as disorganized as I am today? Well, I have got to go pet a cat.